Alright, let's praise some Hazbin Hotel and roast some Disney. I just watched the new season of Hazbin Hotel, and I was excited to see it, not only because I really enjoyed the first season, but because it could give me a chance to highlight how the company that inspired it has fallen off harder than footage surrounding Building 6. They're hiding the truth. However, after finally finishing season 2, I gotta be honest, I didn't enjoy it as much as I did season 1. Now, that's not to say this season's bad. There's just a couple of issues in particular that hold this pretty good season of TV back from being a great one. The season moves at an extremely fast pace, but with so many plot lines happening, it felt like some fan favorites fell to the wayside. Another problem I have, which might be considered a hot take, is that I found Charlie to be very unlikable this season. I think her quirky optimism was getting a bit over the top, and it felt like she hadn't grown that much since season 1. After she went all Super Saiyan on the Angels, on top of the new influence she had under Alistair, I thought we were going to see a slightly darker side to her character going into season 2. Instead, she makes a series of obviously bad decisions trying to persuade the V's about the hotel, and comes across either annoying, stupid, or at times just straight up a bitch. And look, I get how she was pushed over the edge at several points, but it just became a lot to deal with after a while. Still, after it's all said and done, all I have is admiration for what Vivzie and her team have achieved. Starting out as an online cartoonist to having one of the most successful animated shows of the 2020s is insanely impressive. On top of that, the songs still slap harder than ever. While a little overbloated and not as consistent as season 1's, its diverse range of styles and musicality are still the best in the industry today. Yet, when I look at Disney, the company that was a massive inspiration on Hazbin Hotel, all I can do is look in horror as I and thousands of other people's warnings over the years have come to fruition. Now, I could go over the usual rants and bullet points of how, oh, Disney needs to hire good writers, or they need to cheapen their budgets, which is all true, but the truth is, I think we're past that point. As of right now, we need to accept that Disney will not and cannot become the studio it once was. This company is so ethically and creatively dead, it is beyond saving. You'd have more luck reviving a passenger still aboard the Titanic. The company is nothing but a machine of pumping out over-budgeted sequels, live-action remakes, and is unfortunately taking its first terrifying steps into the realm of AI-generated content. So while we watch this company linger towards the edge of extinction, let's look to the ways Hazbin Hotel has given us a much-needed helping of musical animation, and where Disney could have learned a lesson from it. As I mentioned earlier, one of, if not the best part of Hazbin Hotel is the music. You have the typical tropes of a musical like the I Want song, the villain song, the funny song, the love song, or the climactic harmonious song. But what makes this musical stand out from others is its ability to not be limited by one genre. Due to the diversity of characters and locations in hell, they can play around with the styles of music to keep things interesting. For example, in the opening song Hazbin Guarantee, it reintroduces us to this world and sets up the plot perfectly going forward. On the one hand, you have Charlie's section with getting the hotel operational. Her music is a traditional theater ballad with influence of show tune jazz and orchestral arrangements. It's a very optimistic, catchy, and whimsical melody to not only represent Charlie's optimistic personality, but to reflect her aspirations about the hotel's capabilities to rehabilitate sinners. However, as the song goes along, we're reintroduced to the villainous group in hell known as the V's. They're a media conglomerate that take a sinner estranged by Charlie's words and promise her a life of riches and fame. The song then switches from an instrumental ballad in a major key into a synthetic pop track in a minor key. This represents not only the sinister nature of this group, but showcases how even with all the flash and glamour, all they do is exploit people for profit and power. This whole song keeps the audience hooked by reintroducing us into this world and by not being afraid to change up its musical approach to telling the story. And do you want to know the best part? The whole show somehow manages to juggle all of these styles and switch it up in their songs while still making it feel like a cohesive experience. Now, let's look at Disney in recent years. There's been a shocking lack of memorable music from them. In short, they're shit now. With the exception of a handful of tracks, there haven't been any truly incredible Disney songs in the last decade. If you look look back during the Renaissance era or older, Disney carried a wide variety of musical genres. True, a lot were beholden to the styles and times they were released in, but so many have proven to be quite timeless all these years later. However, modern Disney songs are catchy enough and keep you entertained, but they don't propel the stories forward in an intriguing way, and most of their styles are the exact same every time. Since Moana onward, I've seen this trajectory of the same kind of catchy pop tracks with influences of theater or tropical Latino music sprinkled in. Why is this? It's all this guy's fault, right here. Lin-Manuel Miranda. Now, listen, I'm not the first person online to talk about Miranda's effect on modern musicals, and this isn't going to be a bashing of his work. Only, it might be just a little bit.
How dare you!
In all seriousness, the dude has released some absolute bangers in and outside of Disney, but the thing is, once you get an understanding of his approach to songwriting, you'll begin to see it everywhere and it can get annoying pretty quickly. As I just said, his style is very catchy with many different influences, but in particular, tropical Latino music. I don't know if that's the actual term, but anyone who's listened to his music knows what I'm talking about. He grew up in Washington Heights, which is known for its large Hispanic population. He was heavily inspired by that music, and now it's showcased in his work. Moana, Encanto, and The Heights. Though not official, I wouldn't be surprised if he had some kind of influence over the music in Coco as well. His style not only works in musicals, but has also shown to be a dominator in the musical charts. That being said, there is a downside to his music. Due to his love for this style, it can cause a lot of projects in and outside of his control to sound like repeats of each other or just straight up be bad. He made probably the worst soundtrack of his career with Mufasa, but then he's had clear influences on other terrible Disney projects like Moana 2 and Disney's live action remake renditions of older songs. Just watch the remake of Aladdin and you'll see what I mean. There's a clear pop influence added to most of these tracks and they take away from the timeless feel of the originals. It could be a cop-out answer to just blame all of Disney's musical problems on him and him alone, but the dude has had a stranglehold on the market for quite some time now, especially when it comes to Disney's approach to songwriting. Even in one of the most hated movies of all time at this point, Wish, is a byproduct of this style. It has the same kind of pop influence as Manuel, but even further exemplified given the fact that Disney hired pop writers to write these songs. Looking at Hazbin Hotel in comparison, Disney should have looked to this show, or better yet, their past, to see what made a good musical. It was because they weren't concerned about their songs getting to the top of the charts or being audience friendly. It was because they were concerned about finding the best possible people for the job and allowing talented artists to do their thing. However, it's not just the music that's been holding Disney back. There's another aspect of their more recent films that, when you compare it to the past, they've absolutely lost their way. And it's the creation and writing of... Season 2 of Hazbin Hotel wasn't as good as Season 1, but do you know what it excelled at? Villains. Though Adam's presence was sorely missed, it was made up for by this season's main villain, Vox. We got to meet him a little bit in Season 1, but he basically serves as the primary antagonist for Season 2. After it was revealed how angels could be killed, Vox uses this knowledge to not only declare war against heaven, but to also use his power at media manipulation to take down Charlie and her hotel. Why is he doing this? Is it some tragic backstory of him being misunderstood? Was he a guy trying to do the right thing, but was eventually betrayed by society? Nope. It was because he's a power-hungry piece of shit who will do anything to achieve his goals. Now, that doesn't mean he has no intriguing motivations or backstory outside of that. We see how he greatly admired Alistair and became disheartened by his rejection of a team-up. We can also see how his declaration of war is somewhat justified against the angels for their mass genocide of Hell's population. But the thing is, if he actually cared for the population of Hell, he wouldn't have made an entire career using presumably thousands of souls in cheap exploitation for his own personal gain. He's nothing but a Machiavellian con artist who is only interested in his quest for power. He also has an arsenal of memorable songs that exemplify his personality. Once We Get Up There is a catchy show tune demonstrating his stated goal of taking on heaven. Don't You Forget is a song showcasing his disdain and hidden insecurities when it comes to his relationship with Alistair. And the duo songs Vox Populi and Vox Dei show his control over the people of Hell and his final threats to heaven, showcasing his descent into madness and his will to dominate all life. Hazbin Hotel makes this character work because even though he has some understandable motivations and relatable moments here and there, the show still is able to get the point across that there is evil out there. It goes out of its way to remind us that there are some souls in hell for a reason. If you look at Disney today, they haven't made a truly exceptional villain since King Candy and Wreck-It Ralph. To be honest, I'm not sure what the deal is with Disney's lack of good villains in recent years. I think the argument could be made that they've prioritized trying to make their leads better, which I will say have gotten pretty good over the years. But did it have to come at the expense of the villain? Again, during the Renaissance era, we got probably the best string of animated villains ever made. Scar, Judge Claude Frollo, Gaston, Hades, and so on. But they also had an equally strong protagonist to balance it out. I think Disney did buy into the push to make villains some kind of tragic or misunderstood figure as opposed to the "I'm evil because I like being bad" kind of character. Or they had that streak where they did the unbearable twist villain. You know, where the character was revealed to be pulling the strings the whole time, thus reducing the intriguing conflict of the movie to a forgettable someone the heroes had to take down for the climax. I think many people were getting tired of these tropes, and to Wish's credit, they tried to go back to the traditional villain with King Mephisto, but he failed because the writing was so horrible. And I don't think I need to go into why this sucks any further.
And this is the thanks I get.
Another aspect as to why Hazbin Hotel works over Disney is that it knows how to market. You say whatever you want about Hazbin fans. I get that they can be kind of different. But what you can't deny is that it knows what its audience is and wants, and they deliver on all accounts. One of Disney's biggest problems as a company is that they have no clear demographic anymore. They used to cater to families and children, but due to modern sensitivities and hyperinflated budgets, it causes them to play it safe with everything, which in turn makes everything feel like a copy of what came before. Though I've discussed it before, the budgets that they have for their films today are so absurdly overpriced. They'll never be able to make their profit back again. During the recording of this, Zootopia 2 is about to come out, and I have no clue how it's going to do. It'll probably be very successful box office wise, but not really. Though the official budget hasn't been released, there are some estimates saying it could be upwards of $500 million. Even saying that now doesn't sound right, but considering the success of the first one, modern inflation, marketing, and how they've budgeted movies in the past, I would not be surprised by this. Due to these creative and financial decisions, I think it's important as a culture to officially let go of Disney. Even though the company is one of the most culturally significant brands in entertainment history, it will never be what it once was due to the greedy executives at the top having become too accustomed to billion-dollar hits. They can't seem to figure out what went wrong. I'll tell you, it was your unwillingness to reflect on what once worked. It was your obsession to cater to everyone that ended up making you not connect to anyone. And probably the most damning part of all of this, it was your pursuit of profits over substance that's leaving you in financial ruin. If you want to find out what went wrong, all you have to do is look in a mirror. And I don't know what's to come in this new age of conglomerates taking over with the help of AI. Maybe people will buy into the non-human creations, but maybe, just maybe, they'll turn to things like Hazbin Hotel, a brand new yet artistic homage to the 2D animated classics of the past. Maybe people will reject the industry and give their money to those who have a passion for art instead of a passion for money. However, the choice is going to be on us.